Kakadosh, good afternoon. Masechet Yevamot Daf 4A1. We were speaking about, if you remember, an aseh, which is doche alot aseh, which means a positive commandment, and which pushes off a negative commandment. Where do we learn such a concept? So the Gemara says, it says in Devarim, lo tilbash sha'nes, gedilim ta'aseh lecha, ta'aseh lach. Which means like this, in Devarim Kaf Bet Yud Aleph, so chapter 22, Pasuk 11, it says, Lo tilbash sha'nez, you're not supposed to wear a sha'nez, Semen ufishim yachtav, which is basically wool and linen together. And immediately in the next Pasuk, it says, Gedilim ta'aselach, right, that you have to put Gedilim are the tzitzit, on al-bak and focus utecha on the four corners of your garment. So therefore, from the fact that there's a smuchin, which means there's a juxtaposition, a close proximity of one right after another, so therefore, even though there's a negative commandment that you're not allowed to wear shatnez, but for the mitzvah tzitzit, you're allowed to. Okay? So Ve'amar Rabbi Elazar says, Rabbi Elazar, how do we know that we do such a thing? Meaning, we always speak about this concept of a hekesh, which is juxtaposition, close proximity. How do we know that we do this? Yeah? So Ve'amar Rabbi Elazar, simuchim min Torah minayin. Right? How do we know? Where do we have the concept of simuchim? So he says, Shneimar, but it says in a pasuk in Tehillim Kuf Yud Aleph, right? This is in chapter 111, Chet. Ne'emanim kol pikudav simuchim la'olam asuim be'emev yashar pedut shalach le'amo. Right? What does that mean? We said Ne'emanim kol pikudav. They are believed all of his commandments. Simuchim la'ad le'olam, which are close together forever. Asuyim be'emet yashar. They are done with truthfulness and with straightfulness. So therefore, you see from here, from this pasuk that we say on Shabbat afternoon, right, by mincha, we see that this is the concept of smuchim. Smuchim, things when are close together, we're going to say, one second, why are they so close together? There has to be a connection. The same thing, by the way, is when we learn Gemara. Whenever we're learning Gemara, Gemara is supposed to be learned in a way that there's always a connection with something that's going on. Right? If it's a Gemara, for example, sometimes it's analyzing the Mishnah or different parts of the Mishnah. But for example, whenever we're learning a Gemara, there's a connection, there's something there. Because if not, the Gemara just doesn't come out of the blue and start something new. There has to be some type of a connection. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Sheshat, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Mishum, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, says Rav Sheshat, yeah, in the name of Rabbi Elazar, in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Listen to this again. We were just talking about simuchim, and from the fact of simuchim, things which are close together, we learned the halachot that apply to each other. So we just brought down, where do we learn this concept? We learn it from sha'nez and tzitzit, which that in itself, okay, was, right, the entire concept of how is this connected, because if you remember, we said it's a positive commandment pushing off a negative commandment, okay, because it was a positive commandment of tzitzit pushing off the negative commandment of the shatnez, and since there's smuchim, that's how we learn it. So now the Gemara is going to say, Minayin li Yevamos shenafla lifnei mukashechim she'en chosmin ota. Imagine right now you have a woman, she's married to her husband, she's happily married, and then ba'avonatenu harabim kadish, he's gone. Now even more ba'avonatenu harabim, they have no children. Yeah? So imagine, it's a double whammy. Okay? Now, worse, to make scenarios worse, her brother-in-law, which is the Yavam, is a Mukesh Shchin. He's I don't know what, right? Mukesh Shchin literally means that he's got boils all over the place, right? But it could mean that the guy is handicapped, that the guy is, So basically the question is, now what? Are we going to force her to do the Yibum with the Yavam? Meaning, do we say, you know what, listen, I'm sorry, woman, Mrs. So-and-so, tough luck. You couldn't have had a worse mazal. I'm saying at the end of the day, she had no children, now no husband. Now she has to get married to the Yavam, which is like, I don't know what. Yeah. But so do we allow that or not? So here it says, how do we know she'en chosmin ota? Which means we don't force her to get married to the Yavam. Shneimar says in a pasuk in Devarim, Kafei Daled, lo tachsom shor bedisho. You're not allowed to put a muzzle on the shore, on the ox, when you're making him thresh. That means when you put the shore, the ox, right, in the field, you're not allowed to put the muzzle there. By the way, I was always told that this is a reason why Many times when we have a kiddush, right, we don't come and we don't start, giving a long drasha. Why? Lo tachsom shor b'disho. Imagine the people they want to eat, right? Now you're putting them a muzzle. You understand? You're putting them something that they can't eat. So lo tachsom shor b'disho, right? Just like the shor, he's plowing the field. He wants to eat a little bit of something. He's seeing all the everything, and now no nothing. You put a muzzle, he can't even eat. He can't eat anything. So misken the shor, they're making him suffer. So lo tachsom shor b'disho. Now the samichle, immediately after in pasuk hey, after lo tachsom shor b'disho, it says ki yeshavu achim yachtav. When you're going to have two brothers together, and one of them are going to die, so then you have yibum chalitza. So the fact that it puts simuchim, which means the fact that it puts close together the concept of yibum and chalitza towards the concept of lo tachsom shor b'disho, it means that we cannot put a machsom, we cannot put like a muzzle on this yevama and to force her to get married to someone that mamash. If it's just stam that she doesn't like it, that's something else. But no, here it's mamash, it's like a mukeshchin. So because of that, we come and we say, right, that we don't stop, meaning that we actually let her not get married to this yavam. Says the Gemara, ve'amar Rav Yosef, it says of Yosef, afilu leman de la darish semuchim be'alma b'mishne Torah darish. Even according to the opinions that we do not make a drasha of simuchim generally throughout the entire Torah, in Mishneh Torah we do simuchim. Why? We will explain in a few minutes. Why is Mishneh Torah, which is Sefer Devarim, right? Because it's based upon the pasuk of Mishneh Torah Zot, the Katav Lo Mishneh Torah Zot al Sefer, right? But also Mishneh Torah, because it's like a chazara of the entire of the Torah. So therefore, during in Sefer Devarim, according to everybody, we do the darish. Tehar Rabbi Yehuda be'alma lo darish, because Rabbi Yehuda generally does not make simuchim throughout the entire Torah, but in Mishneh Torah he does do it, right? So says the Gemara, be'alma menalan de la darish. How do we know, generally speaking, that Rabbi Yehuda does not do dirushim, meaning he doesn't do the smuchim to make drashot? It says the Tanya was learned on a Raita. Ben Azai says, Neemar, it says in the pasuk, right? This is in Mishpatim. It says mechashefa lo techayeh. You cannot let live a mechashefa, a witch. You're not allowed to let a witch live. Now it's written in the next pasuk, Kol shochevim be'ema mot yumat. Anybody that sleeps with an animal dies. Okay? So simacho inyan lo. So why is it coming and putting it so close together? Think about it. What's the connection between the witch and the animal? Sleeping with an animal, right? Bestiality. So it says, Ma shochevim be'ema biskila. Just like if somebody's going to lie with an animal, so he gets sekila, meaning he gets sekila and the animal gets sekila. So too mechashefa. Remember, sekila is the worst of the punishments. They throw them off a 2-story building, and if they still survive, then they throw the stones at them. Af mechashefa beskila. So therefore, also in the mechashefa, you get sekila. That means the reason why they put them so close together was to teach you it has the same death penalty, the same punishment, which is the worst of all the punishments. Says Amar lo Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, right, to Ben Azai, he comes and he says, what, just because we're going to come and say that they're one beside each other, so now you're going to come and you're going to say that everything goes to sekila? You're going to give them the worst of the punishments? Ella, but rather, ov v'yideoni, bichlal mechashefim hayu. Ov v'yideoni, they were doing witchcrafts, because ov and yideoni is a form of witchcrafts. Yeah, so it says, right, ov is basically bringing up the soul. I don't know how you say it in English. It's bringing up the soul back, right? So that's a form of witchcraft. And they basically they hear the sound of the soul. Yideoni is that they put a bone inside of the person, right? Which is called the yidoa, right? That's a yideoni, right? And all of a sudden, what happens is that it starts like witchcraft. Okay. So it says, Ovi deoni bichlan mechashafim ayu velama yatsu. So why all of a sudden now does it come out? Because it says in the pasuk vayikra veisho isha ki yevaim ovo yideoni mot yumat. You have to kill them. Now, how do you kill them? You kill them with stoning. So it says lakish lahem velomar lecha ma ovi yideoni beskila af mechashefa beskila. So rather it comes and he says like this. He says, the smichut of the parashiot, right, on itself is not enough to teach you the punishment. To teach you that just like mechashefa, right, is going to be with skila just because of shochev mema was skila. He says no. You know how you know mechashefa was skila? Because the fact that ovi deoni was taken out of mechashefa, because it's also kishuf. So the fact that I separated them and I said by them mefurash that they get sekila, so too mechashefa gets sekila. Okay? So says the Gemara, fine. Uv Mishneh Torah menalan de darish. So by Mishneh Torah, how do we know, right, that we do this dirasha, right? That means, remember, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we don't do it generally, but we do it by Mishneh Torah. So it says, the Trambas, we learned in the Mishnah, Noseh Adam anusat aviv mufutat aviv. A person is allowed to get married to his anusat aviv, mufutat aviv, which means if the father of a person seduces a woman or violates a woman, this person could get married to the woman, meaning the son could get married to this woman. Why? Because when it says ervat eshet avicha lo tegale, it has to be an isha. It has to be the wife. A person that seduces or violates a woman, that woman is not his wife. He seduced her or he violated her, but no more than that, right? The same halacha applies now to anusat beno, mfutat beno, which is basically, how do we know that if somebody now comes and he's going to seduce, right? Anusat beno, mfutat beno, which means a person can marry a woman that had relations with his son. Yeah, why? Because the same thing. Because when it says eshet beno, ervat kalatecha, your daughter-in-law, she's not a daughter-in-law. A daughter-in-law is somebody through marriage. Anybody that is not done through marriage is nothing. So therefore, the same way, that means it goes upwards and downwards. That basically anusa or mefuta, which is violation or seducing, is not a wife. Therefore, since it's not a wife, a person could get married to his father's, the woman that the father seduced or father violated, or the opposite, a woman that the son violated or son seduced her. That is in the Mishnah later on, Tzadik Zayin Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, Oser banusat aviv ufutat aviv. This is going to be a sur. You're not allowed to get married to your father's woman that he basically seduced, right? Or not only seduced or even violated. Why? He says, Ramar of Gidal Amarav, says of Gidal Amarav. My Tamad Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda? He says, Dichtiv says in a pasuk in Devarim, Lo yikach ish et eshet aviv, ve'lo yegale kenaf aviv. It already says a person cannot take the wife of his father. And then it says, and you should not reveal the wings of your father. Right? What does that mean? Kenaf ve'lo yegale kenaf aviv. So it says, kanaf shera'a aviv lo yegale, which means that somebody that had relations with the father, so therefore she saw the nakedness of the father, you should not reveal that. So therefore, the fact that she already saw the father, so the son cannot have relations with her, right? So says the Gemara, yeah, but how do you know that we're talking about anusa right now? So answers the Gemara, milave dikra, because the pasuk which is right before it. Tichtiv, was it says in the pasuk right before, it says in Perek Kavbet Kaftet, it says that basically a person that violates a woman, which is honest, he has to pay to the father of the girl 50 kesef. And immediately it's written, Lo yikach ish ve'lo yigane kenaf aviv. So from the fact that it's written immediately afterwards, so just like the pasuk before was talking about honest violation, so to this pasuk was talking about violation. And therefore that's what we're saying. So you see that in Sefer Devarim, Rabbi Yehuda does come and doresh smuchim, but not in other places. Says the Gemara now, V'Rabbanan, and according to the Chachamim, that they hold that anusat aviv is not prohibited. What do they do with the pasuk of V'lo yigale kenaf aviv? So says the Gemara, Ihavi samichle, if it was mamash samuch, kedekamarta, then in achanami, then you're right. Hashta de lo samichle, but it's not mamash samuch. Why? Because it's written, Lo yikach ish et eshet aviv benatayim. A person cannot take the father's wife in between, which means lo yikach ish et eshet aviv. So therefore, what are we talking about? Ashomeret yavam katuv medaber. Shomeret Yavam. And therefore, when it says Velo yigale kenaf aviv, velavor alav b'shnei lavim, which means it's coming to transgress two lavim. So with this, I'm going to share with you the screen again. And there, basically, it's, one second. It's right here. Reuven and Shimon are brothers. Yeah, Reuven has a son, his name is Chanoch. Okay? Now, Shimon gets married to Esther. Okay? And then what happens is Shimon dies. Now, Esther is prohibited to Chanoch also because it is her uncle. Sorry, it's also because of Isur Dodato, because it's the aunt. Plus, Mishum Knaf Ara'ui La'aviv. Also because of Knaf, which is fitting for Aviv. Okay? Here, look. Esther was married to Shimon. Now, when she's going to come and be with Reuven, that would be a problem. Why would that be a problem? Esther is Asura to Chanoch. Why is she prohibited to Chanoch? Because for Chanoch, this is the uncle's wife. You see? Uncle's wife. This is Shimon. This is the uncle. So the uncle's wife. Okay? And also because Knaf Hara'ui La'aviv, which means the fact that this woman could get married to Reuven, so this is Knaf Hara'ui La'aviv. So because of there's two Isurim, you're adding an Isur onto it. Okay? And then that's it. So what would be the svara? I know that we love Sefer Devarim, right? But what would be the reason why only in Devarim does Rabbi Yehuda doresh semuchim and not in the rest of the Torah? So it says the Gemara, two different reasons. Maybe the reason why is because it's muchach, which means when things were in the Torah, they happened in a certain order. Mishneh Torah was at the end when Moshe Rabbeinu came, and he was putting everything together as a chazara their last year, right towards the end. So therefore, the fact that he put certain things in certain times, so therefore, obviously, it was for a reason over there. So therefore, it's muchach. It's like more certain that if they're already together, there's a reason for it. So that's in Devarim. Other things, it could be, it was just this is the order, but not because of more than that. Or if you want, you can answer Mishum de Mufne. Now we're going to explain each one. Mufne means that there's something extra, and because there's something extra, so therefore we make a dirasha because it's superfluous. It's like extra. There's something which is extra that I didn't need. So now let's explain. Okay, we just wanted to explain now the dirasha of lo yigale knaf aviv to do with parashat ones. So iba itema de mishum de muchach. What does it mean that it's muchach? Deim can, if the pasuk is not to make a dirasha of smuchim, which means to come and to give you an extra, right, azhara on eshet av, so lichte verachmana gabe arayot. Why didn't the Torah write it by all the other arayot? In Parashat Vayikra, what we read on Kippur, those are all the things of Parashat Arayot, right? Why didn't we write it over there? But the fact that only over here in Devarim it's written Velo yigale kenaf aviv, and it's written right after ones, so therefore it's muchach that it's on the ones, and it's talking about ones aviv. That's the pshat muchach. Muchach is like it's implied. Why? Because behemet, if you thought, write it in the proper place. What's the proper place? In Vayikra. Vayikra Parashat Arayot. Write it over there. Or if you want, you could answer, right? Mishum de mufne. What does that mean that it's mishum de mufne? Right? Because it's mufne. Dimken bezefso. Ya lichtov rachmana. Right? The Torah should write lo yikach ish et eshet aviv. Right? Lo yigale kenaf aviv lamali. Which means like this. If you're going to tell me that the Torah did not want to write you that, so just write lo yikach ish et eshet aviv. That's it. Why are the words lo yigale kenaf aviv? They're extra. What am I learning from that? Lamali. Why do I need these words? So the fact that I needed those words, shema mina, comes to teach you and dalad amubet, right? For B on the top, lafnuye. It comes to teach you that it's empty. Once it's empty, now we're able to make a drasha with it. Because something that's extra and I don't need it for anything, so therefore I come in and make a drasha. Because why do I need it? I don't need it. So the Torah wrote it, there's a reason. What's the reason? I'm going to say it's going to be for Anusat Aviv. And that is the reason why, right, we come and we say that the entire concept of the Shitat Rabbi Yehuda to do with Anusat Aviv. Nami also to do with tzitzit, we have the same thing to do with the smuchim, to do with shatnez. Either because it's muchach, again it's implied, or because it's empty. Now we're going to explain. How do we know that it's implied that way? Because if so, it should have written the words Gedelim Ta'aseh Lach in Parashat Tzitzit in Bamidbar, meaning in Parashat Shelach. The maftir is Parashat Tzitzit, where we read every single day in Kriyat Shema. So therefore, over there, it should have been written, why is it written here in Parashat, in Devarim? In Sefer Devarim, when it writes it again, why is it written? Right after Shatnez. So therefore, it's muchach, it's implied that the fact that it didn't write it in Parashat Tzitzit and it wrote it by here, it's coming to teach you a rule, that even though I just roll you down one pasuk beforehand, lo tilba Shatnez, the next pasuk says that you are allowed to when it's talking about for the tzitzit. Or if you want, you could answer it's because it's mufne. Again, mufne means that it's empty. It's free. It's superfluous. It's free that you could do whatever you want with the drasha. Michte, right? Let us see. It says like this. Katav. It's written. Ubeged kilayim sha'nez lo ya'ale alecha. Beged kilayim shatnez, you should not wear. So it says, if it's already written in Vayikra, Yutet, it says over there, Beged kilayim shatnez lo ya'ale alecha, a clothing of shatnez, which is kilayim. Remember, what is kilayim also? A mixture of two different things. It's semen and vishrim. So if it says lo ya'ale alecha, so then why do we need lo tilba shatnez lamali? So why do we need lo tilba shatnez? If it's already written, Ubeged kilayim shatnez lo ya'ale alecha, so I don't need the lo tilba shatnez. So Shmamina, so comes teach you lafnuye. What does that mean, lafnuye? It's free. From the fact that it's free, which means I already knew this, so I didn't need you to teach it to me. So the fact that I didn't need you to teach it to me, the fact that you're teaching it to me now, it's extra. So if it's extra, it's coming to teach you a halacha. So what's the halacha? The halacha is that here there's a yotze min haklal, an exception to the rule. What's the exception to the rule? That you're allowed to wear shatnez in certain circumstances. When is that? Tzitzit. Ask the Gemara. This is very, very famous. What we try to do is that when you tell me that something is mufne, I push you off by telling you that it's not mufne. It's required. It's needed. So now if I'm going to prove to you that it's needed, you cannot tell me that it's mufne anymore. And if it's not mufne, which means it's not panui, it's not. So then whoever told you that you could be doresh this. So let's see what it says. Says the Gemara, Hani mitzach tzich. What are you talking about? I need both psukim. I need the psukim of Ubegi Kilayim Shanez Lo Yalecha and Vayikra Yutet. And I need the pasuk of Lo Tidba Shanez, right? Why? Explains the Gemara. But if it was only going to be written in the Torah, right? Ubegi Kilayim Shanez Lo Yalecha, which is Vayikra. Hava mina, I would have thought to say, Kol derech hala'a sarachmana. Anything which is hala'a. What does that mean? Va'afilu mochrek sut. As long as you put it on, it's already a sut. And even if you sell a clothing, okay, that sometimes they just put it on you not to wear it, just to show it to the customers, but you're not actually benefiting from it. You're a mannequin. In the olden days, they didn't have mannequins, so the human being was a mannequin, right? So therefore, you're coming and you're putting it on you just to show you're not wearing it. Katav rachmana. Therefore, the Torah says lo tilba shanez. What does that mean? Dumya delvisha adit behanaa. It has to be a type of a levisha. A type of a wearing that you have hana'ah from chimum of the bigadim. Meaning not just like stam mochrek suit that they put it on for just 2 seconds just to show you, but it's not that they themselves are actually benefiting from the clothing. So therefore, if it didn't have the pasuk l'tilba shanez, I would have thought that even if you put it on for 1 minute just to show a customer, asur. So therefore, l'tilba shanez, no, it has to be the levisha. Levisha means that you're benefiting from it, you're wearing it. Now, v'ikatav rachmana, what happens if it only wrote the second pasuk? Lo tilba shatnez, which is in Devarim. It says Havamina, then I would have had Havamina dafka levisha, only wearing it, the nafi shaneta, because there's a lot of hana. Aval ha'ala, but when you put it onto you, not like a clothing. For example, like a smicha, you put it on like a blanket. So blanket is not the same like a clothing. You're benefiting from a blanket, but it's not the same as a clothing. So I would have thought to say that maybe the Torah didn't prohibit it. Katav rachmana, therefore the Torah says lo yale alecha, that even in this way that it's not a levush, but you still, that means from lo tilbash, it has to be like a hana'av levush. But from lo ya'ale alecha teaches you that even if putting it on with hana'ah, but it's not a levush, for example, a smicha, like a blanket, it's still going to be asur. So you need both. And that's why now, so now that we just said right now, if you need both, so it's not mufne anymore. It's not extra for a dirasha. So answers the Gemara, in Ken, if so, lichtov rachmana, the Torah should have just wrote, lo tilbash sha'nes. Don't wear sha'nes. Semen ufishtim lamali. Why did I have to write the word semen ufishtim yachtav? Why did I have to write that? Right? I already know that. Michti, shekadav, it's already written in Sefer Vayikra. Ubege kilaim sha'nes lo yale alecha. The Tana de Veri Vishmael, taught in the Academy of Vishmael, Hol v'nimru b'Torah stam begadim. From the Torah, since it's written ubeged, now beged is stam beged, right? So since it's written beged is stam, without explaining to you which type of a clothing, uparan lecha katuv bechamen tzemeshim, and then it told you later on that shatnez is only in semen ufishtim, okay? But that's where it was later on, right? Beveged semen ufishtim, vayikra yud gimel mem zayin. So therefore, we learn from there it's a binyan av. A binyan av is so too any place when it's going to be beged, it means semen ufishtim, which means like this. If I just said beged, beged means clothing. What type of clothing? I would have said any type of clothing: silk, polyester, linen, wool, this, that, synthetic, whatever you want, any type. Beged is beged. But there was somewhere else where the Torah said explicitly what is beged is semen ufishtim. Where was that? When it says in Vayikra Yud Gimel Mem Zayin, right? Beveged, this is talking about the tzarat. And it says there, beveged tzemer or beveged pishtim. In a beged of tzemer or beged pishtim. So now the Torah is telling you, when I mention the word beged, beged either goes on tzemer or beged either goes on pishtim. So therefore we say it's a binyana. Binyana means like I come and I make it like like an umbrella that like I'm making like a house, a building block that I say that from now on, anytime that it says the word stam beged, it means beged tzemer or beged pishtim, because now I already explained what it was a beged. So then tzemer ufishtim dechatav rachmana lamali. So therefore, why do I need tzemer ufishtim in devarim? I already know beged kilaim and vayikra. I already know also from vayikra that any type of beged means tzemer ufishtim. So why do I need tzemer ufishtim in devarim? So it says shema mina lafnuya, right? So therefore, right, it's extra. And the fact that the words that semen ufishtim is extra, that's how we're learning that tzitzit you could wear with shanes. So ask the Gemara, v'akati yitzrich, I still need it, right? Why? That means I still need the pasuk, right? Because even though you just told me now, right, that we're talking about a mixture of shatnez and semen ufishtim, salka daita chamina, I would have thought to say halahahi de lo nafishana'ata, right? He says I would have thought to say that dafka when you're doing hala'av, the beged on the goof, without actually wearing it, meaning the fact that you put it on your body like a blanket, but you're not actually wearing it, the Torah prohibits only semen ufishtim, because there, what was written there? Uvege kilaim lo yale alecha, hala'ah, and there it's beged. What did you just tell me? What was beged? Only semen ufishtim. Aval levisha, when it says by us in the varim lo tilbash sha'nes, there is some levisha. And levisha is much more hana. You benefit from much more when you wear something than just you put it onto you. So I would have thought to say kol tremine asar rachmana, so that the Torah prohibits any type of two species, not even semen ufishtim, any type of two species together. So katav rachmana. That's why the Torah specifically said semen ufishtim. Right? That means you need the semen ufishtim, because if you didn't have semen ufishtim over there, I already know it's semen ufishtim. You're right, because there it's hala'ah. But if it's levisha lo tilbash, it could be any type of two clothing. So therefore, tzemen ufishtim, only dafka tzemen ufishtim. So it says the Gemara, im ken if so, lishto kramine. So then the pasuk should not have said the word tzemen ufishtim. Ve'teiti shatnez shanez mela, and then we make a gzera shava, shatnez shanez from hala, which means just like hala, it's shatnez, and over here it's shatnez. So I would apply both halachot together of beged tzemen ufishtim. I didn't need to say it. So the fact that I did say it, and I didn't want to use a gezerah shavat to learn it, this is a proof that it's extra. And once it's extra, it's mufne. Okay? Very good. Now that we just said that the concept of an aseh is doche lo ta'aseh from smichut, meaning a positive commandment pushes away a negative commandment from smichut, from the fact that they're both brought down together, we're going to now say the following. The Tana de Rabbi Ishmael, They taught in the Academy of Rabbi Ishmael, it's only because it's written Semenu Fishtim. If it wasn't for this, I would have thought to say that the Torah is prohibiting to wear tzitzit when there's going to be shatnez. It's written, right? It says you have to make tzitzit al kanfei bigdehem. What is bigdehem? What is beged? The Tana of Ishmael, kol begadim, semenu fishtim. It says mefurash in the Torah that you're supposed to put tzitzit on beged semenu fishtim. But it says al kanfei bigdehem. The Rachmana says avi letchelet. You have to make the tchelet. Utchelet amra. Utchelet is wool. So if tchelet is wool, so therefore you see that according to Tana of Ishmael, it comes out that in the same mitzvah of tzitzit, you have to tie a petil techelet, which techelet is wool, even a beged pishtim. So therefore, why do we need an extra pasuk of teaching you that tzitzit is doche, right? The lo ta'aseh of shatnez. It's written in front of the Torah. V'asu lahem tzitzit al kafeh bigdehem. You just told me that bigdehem means semenu fishtim, and the tzitzit is tchelet. Tzitzit is wool. Bigdehem means beged. Sorry, bigdehem is a beged, whether it's semenu fishtim. So therefore, you already tell me that you're putting on shatnez. So it says the Gemara, who told you that tchelet is wool? Right? Mideshesh kitna. Since shesh, which is brought down in the bigdei kiuna, right? Kotno shesh. Kotnot shesh. What is shesh in the bigdei kiuna? In bigdei kiuna, shesh is pishtan. So tchelet is amrahu. So you know that tchelet is wool. Meaning I'm just inferring it. If I already know that there was linen, and what is the linen? By bigdei kiuna, the shesh, bigdei shesh. So the tchelet is amrahu. So therefore, I already know it. So it comes out that therefore it's mefurash in the mitzvah of tzitzit, that it's doche shatnez. So why do we need then an extra dirasha of semenu fishtim? I don't need it in Devarim. I don't need it. So says the Gemara, I still need it. Why? I would have thought like the drasha of Rava. What was the drasha of Rava, which we're going to mention later on? I would have thought to say that there's a mitzvah to put pitil techele betzitzit of only, right, of beged pishtim. The Rava Rami, because Rava comes and he asks a contradiction. What is the contradiction? Ketiv tzitzit hakanaf, right? V'natenu al tzitzit hakanaf, right? Tzitzit hakanaf. So it's mashma that the tzitzit has to be min kanaf, which means the chute tzitzit has to be from the same min as the beged. Has to be the same species. So whatever you're putting the tzitzit, it has to be from the min of the kanaf. Uchtiv, and it's written somewhere else. Semenu fishtim gidrim taselach, right? Which was the devarim we mentioned. So therefore, Hakait said, how could this be? Because there it says semenu fishtim lebeged according to each one. Now 1 second. That means if the beged is made out of pishtim, you have to make tzitzit out of pishtim. If the beged is made out of tzemed, you have to make the tzitzit out of tzemed. So Hakait said, how do you do that? Semenu pishtim potrin, right? So therefore you have to say that the chutet semenu pishtim potrin bememinan men shlominan, that the wool or the linen threads are going to be poter, whether it's the same species or another species, right? That means whether we're talking about out of beged is not otomin. For example, let's say meshi, silk, right? But which means like this: if you have the tzitziot, the actual threads, if they are made out of beged, out of tzemeru pishtim, it exempts everything. Doesn't matter whether it's made out of silk, out of this, out of polyester, out of linen, out of this, out of synthetics, out of wool, doesn't matter. It's poter everything. But if it's going to be made out of another utensil, meaning that, let's say, for example, the tzitziot were made out of silk, so it could only be poter a silk tzitzit, meaning a silk beged, a silk beged, the silk beged. That means the tzemer of fishtam is going to be poter b'meminan min shelo b'minan, whether the same species or not the same species. We're talking about the beged. The sharminim, for example, let's say silk, it's only going to be poter if it's silk, but if it's not going to be minan, it's not going to be poter. So because of this, we come and we learn from here that because of Rava, I need this pasuk of beged semen upishtim in order to teach me this. So now the Gemara is going to say as follows: the Hatana de Rabbi Ishmael, he says 1 second, but Tana de Rabbi Ishmael, they don't hold of Rava. So if they don't hold Rava, Rava holds that tzitzit kanaf teaches you that the tzitzit from sharminim other than semen upishtim, for example, meshi, is not keshera unless it's meshi. Tana de Rabbi Ishmael, they don't hold of that. They hold that other tzitziot or other clothing are not chayvim in tzitzit at all. Okay, because mitzat tzitzit is only in bigdehem. That means only in Beged, Tzemer Ufishtim. That's the only thing which is obligated in Tzitzit. So says the Gemara, Itzlich. I still need it. Why? Sal Kadai Tachamina, I would have thought to say, Ki Diyuka de Rava Hakanaf Min Kanaf. That still you make the Diyuk of Rava, which means that the Chutet Tzitzit are not going to be kasher unless it's the same species. So that means even though Rabbi Shmuel holds that another clothing, right, are not right, the other Bigdei Shar Minim are chayavim b'tzitzit, the drashav tzitzit kanaf, right, is still going to be obligated. Yeah? So yeah, so he comes and he says, the haki kama rachmana. So this is what the Torah is saying. Avid letzemed upishtim upishtim. So the Torah is telling you, you have to make a tzitzit of tzemed for beged tzemed. You have to make a tzitzit of pishtim for beged pishtim. You have to make tzitzit of wool for wool clothing. You have to make a tzitzit of pishtim for pishtim clothing. So therefore he says, so when you make a tzitzit of tzemed for beged tzemed, right? Now when you're going to come and you're tzavaut, or you color it, right? Which means you make techelet, aval tzemed lepishtim upishtim letzemed, lo, you can't do that. So k'tav rachmana, therefore the Torah teaches you tzemed lepishtim, dafilu tzemed lepishtim upishtim letzemed, that it's still going to be okay. So therefore, that's why we learn from here that a mitzvah says doche alot taaseh in the Torah. And then Mezat Hashem, tomorrow we continue with Teina.